This is the Yankees Postcast, your instant game reaction for the New York Yankees. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
The Yanks finally snapped the skid. They beat the Mets in the Subway Series finale at Citi Field in Queens today, 6-4. Believe it or not, at one point, the Yanks had a 5-0 lead before the Mets made things interesting. Again, 6-4, the final score. A huge pair of rally-killing double plays in the 7th and 8th, respectively, certainly helped the Yankees big time. And again, it cut off that Met comeback. The 6-game losing streak for the Yanks, now history, again, 6-4, the final score. Hello, everybody. I'm Jay Berman. If you're a New Yorker, you might recognize my work. I've spent more than 2 decades in the biz, everything from TV to web to radio. Glad to have you aboard. Please follow me on X as well, at Jay Berman, Jayberman. Welcome to the Locked On Yankees Postcast, both on the Locked On Yankees YouTube channel and the Locked On Yankees podcast feed. The Postcast, which is this, gives you a chance to chat after every game. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we begin, let's let you know that this episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your very first year.
This is what you'll be talking about.
All right, what a wild series. What a wild afternoon. As we said, those double plays proved to be huge, obviously huge for the Yankees. They escaped with a 6-4 win. As we said, at one point, it was 5-0 with Max Fried on the mound. However, Fried would allow 2 runs in the bottom of the 5th. The Mets would score 2 more in the bottom of the 6th to get it within 5-4. Yanks would add a run in the 7th. And then the bullpen for the Yankees somehow gets through the 8th and 9th, including a 1-2-3 ninth from Devin Williams. Again, 6-4, the final score. By the way, the Blue Jays won today as well. Again, they beat the Angels 3-2. So the Yanks remain 3 games back of the Blue Jays for the top spot in the American League East. If you recall, going into that Toronto series about a week ago, the Yanks were up 3 on the Blue Jays. They're now down 3 to the Blue Jays, who just don't lose. All right, as for Max Fried, he does get the win, his 11th of the season. And now, after a Yankee loss, Fried is 9-1. Really, he is the stopper. As we say in baseball, momentum, your next day's starting pitcher. Well, that's exactly what the Yankees needed and got from Max Fried, despite the fact that it wasn't his best performance by a mile. In fact, 5 innings, 3 earned through 98 pitches. It was actually 5+. He comes in to face Brandon Nimmo in the bottom of the 6th inning. 1 pitch, he hits Nimmo, puts him on first base, and that was the end of the afternoon for Fried. He was replaced by Loaizaga, who gave up a run. Then there was Leiter Jr., Hill, and obviously Devin Williams, who struck out 2 in a 1-2-3 ninth inning. You figured at some point in the 9th inning, we were going to see Pete Alonso versus Devin Williams. Well, that didn't happen as the Mets were retired 1-2-3 in the 9th. Real quick on Devin Williams, who, of course, was excellent today. It's amazing, 1, how bad he was, and 2, how good he's been. Through all that, his season's ERA has been lowered to 5.01. 5.01, and he's pitched well. For what it's worth, Devin Williams, his 12th save. All right, as for the lineup, top of the lineup was great. Paul Goldschmidt had 2 hits. Trent Grisham had 3 hits. Aaron Judge, obviously, with the home run, his 33rd of the season. He now trails Cal Raleigh by 2. The Mariners catcher has 35. And, of course, next up for the Yankees, the Seattle Mariners, as they come to town on Tuesday. Again, every Yankee starter, with the exception of Anthony Volpe and Oswald Peraza, had hits. And that seems like a repeating occurrence because obviously both those struggle. Volpe now hitting .219. Peraza is an automatic out. Great glove, 0 bat. Not sure how much longer we can play with Oswald Peraza at third base. He's now hitting 154. His on base is 225, and we're not trying to pick on him, but we try and figure out exactly where the Yankees can improve. One way to do that, get Peraza out of there. Again, his on base is 225. His slugging is 262. Folks, his OPS is below 500. That is miserable. All right, as we said, Max Fried, 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned, 1 walk, 5 Ks through 98 pitches. And then you knew it was going to be up to the bullpen from that point on. Obviously, the Wyzega struggled, and 3 of the 4 runs were charged to Max Fried. However, despite that, and his ERA went up today, it's still at 2.27. Amazing stuff from Max Fried. In case you missed it, well, if you watched the game, you didn't. It was impossible to ignore it. John Bacon was the home plate ump. Now, Carlos Mendoza got ejected. You knew he would. We actually thought there was a chance early on, in fact, in the very first inning, that Aaron Boone could get tossed. Max Fried, of course, was called for a pitch clock violation, which irritated him and irritated Boone. And then, of course, Bacon with some, simply put, ridiculous balls and strikes calls for both sides. Yes, it was terrible on Luis Torrens in the 9th inning. Both those calls, strike 2 and strike 3, were clearly balls. And that's why Carlos Mendoza felt it incumbent upon himself to get ejected just the second time. But again, it seemed like early on Aaron Boone was going to get ejected. So it just gives you a flavor, a slice of exactly how bad John Bacon is at his job, or at least he was today. Again, he ejected Carlos Mendoza. If you recall, Bacon was the umpire that ejected Jazz down in Tampa earlier this season. So we try and put 2 and 2 together here. Interesting times, to say the least. Now, as for Mendy, he made a huge mistake, and the Yankees made him pay. The Aaron Judge home run, his 33rd, came in the 5th inning. It was 3-0 at that point. With Giancarlo Stanton on deck, a obvious double play candidate, they decided to pitch to Judge. First pitch over the wall. That made it 5-0. Now the Mets would get to within 5-4. But again, that, for all intents and purposes, put it out of reach, despite the fact that the Mets had chances in both the 7th and 8th, and that'll get us to the play of the game, which was obviously the double play by Cody Bellinger in the 7th inning. What a play. By the shortest of margins, he makes the catch. And perhaps even more amazing than the catch was the throw from left field, medium left field, all the way to first base on a fly, on a strike. 1, Lindor didn't slide coming back into first base, which definitely made a difference. And 2, excellent job by Paul Goldschmidt to catch it, step on the base, complete the double play, and essentially kill a rally. Now, in the 8th inning, the leadoff man is on once again for the Mets. And another double play. This time to Paul Goldschmidt at first, steps on the bag, also gets Mauricio the runner. And again, another rally-killing double play, both in the 7th and the 8th innings for the Yankees. Hey, defense is part of it, and the defense has been struggling of late. Fundamentals. The Yankees have lacked fundamentals. Well, today they didn't. Cody Bellinger made an excellent play. Paul Goldschmidt made an excellent play. The defense was pretty solid all the way around. No errors for the Yankees. And again, on 6 runs on 12 hits, the Yanks finally snapped their 6-game losing skid. Unfortunately, as we said, they didn't pick up any ground, at least on the Blue Jays, who again beat the Angels 3-2 and continue to lead the Yankees by 3 games. As we said, Devin Williams, a scoreless 9th, 1, 2, 3 on 15 pitches, struck out 2. Obviously, the Torrens strikeout and then the Lindor strikeout. Torrens wasn't a strikeout, but for what it's worth, it goes in the books as a K. And again, John Bacon was the home plate umpire for what it's worth. Starling Marte had 3 hits for the Mets. Ronnie Mauricio had 2 pinch hits. Jeff McNeil had 2 hits as well. Meanwhile, Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt each had 2 hits. Trent Grisham, as we said, had 3. Austin Wells also hit a home run. For Wells, his 13th. The Yanks hit 9 home runs in the series. and barely got out of it with a win. Amazing stuff. There were 15 home runs hit in the series. Ball was flying out of city in this warm summer air. So again, Yanks and Mets finish up a 3-3 season. Yanks took 2 of 3 from the Mets in the Bronx. Mets take 2 of 3 from the Yankees at City. And again, they finished the season 3 up and 3 down for both sides. We got to do the player of the game. We have some injury updates and a trade to tell you about. Yes, it involves the Yankees. We'll explain, and obviously the probables for the Seattle series as well. Ever wish managing your money felt just a little bit easier? Well, with Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. If you've ever wished you had all your accounts and spending in one place, Monarch Money is for you. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your very first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your very first year. All right, without further ado,
this is the Locked On Player of the Game.
All right, we told you about the play of the game, and obviously it's the player of the game as well, Cody Bellinger. And we don't usually give it for a defensive play, but this was so amazing. One of the best double plays you'll ever see. And he's the player of the game. That's Cody Bellinger, who also had 2 hits. By the way, Bellinger's had a pretty good season, quietly upped his average to 272, on base 330, slugging 468. So again, player of the game to Cody Bellinger, with the defensive play of the game, also had 2 hits. Again, 6-4 the final score. If you missed it before the game, Yanks optioned Javier Sandridge back to AAA Scranton. They called backup Jeff Hartlieb, who, by the way, was a former Met for what it's worth. So Hartlieb was available in the bullpen today. Again, Sandridge down, Hartlieb up. Now, if you recall in spring training, the backup catcher's spot was between J.C. Escarra and Alex Jackson. Escarra wins the job, heads north with the club. Jackson, down to AAA, doesn't make the team, and today he was traded. The Baltimore Orioles need catching depth, so Jackson was traded to the Orioles in exchange for international signing bonus pool money and a player to be named later. So again, Alex Jackson out. As for the probables for the Yanks and Mariners in New York beginning on Tuesday, not sure about Seattle's staff as of yet. Looks like it could be Logan Gilbert going on Tuesday. More importantly for the Yankees, it's Will Warren. On Wednesday, that is the huge question, and it could be Cam Schlittler who gets called up to make the start. He'd be in line. Again, no word yet. The Yanks are calling it TBD for Wednesday. As for Thursday, Marcus Stroman gets his 3rd start since returning. Of course, he pitched against the Mets 2 nights ago on July 4th. He will pitch on Thursday. Again, Will Warren, no idea, possibly Schlittler, and then Marcus Stroman on Thursday. All right, thanks for making Locked On Yankees your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night, all season long. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also want to mention our partners in crime at Locked On Yankees, Stacey Gatsoulias and Brian McKeon. Again, they handle all the stuff at Locked On Yanks. They're the best, so follow, subscribe, and enjoy. Yanks are now 49-41, back to 8 games above 500, and they're within 1 game of 500 on the road, 23-24. And again, overall, one more time, 49-41, 3 full games behind the Blue Jays in the American League East. Again, Yanks and Mets split 6 this season. 2 out of 3 for the Bombers in the Bronx, 2 out of 3 for the Mets in Queens. Again, 6-4 the final score. Day off on Monday. Yes, a day off. Back at it Tuesday for the first of 3 with Seattle. Then the Cubs come to town. So 3 with the Mariners, 3 with Chicago, then the All-Star break. Amazing how fast the first 2.5 months of the regular season go. And after that, second half of the season. And the stretch drive will be underway. Again, 6-4 final score as the Yanks, 1, avoid the sweep, and 2, snap their 6-game losing skid. We'll see you Tuesday night. Have a great night, everyone.